All right, LT3. Um, in this learning target and the next few, we're going to be talking about different ways to solve a quadratic equation. A quadratic equation is anything that has an x squared in it as the highest term. So no like x to the third or anything like that, just x squared and then other stuff. Um, but the first question that's on here and is on your notes is why do we solve quadratic equations? Um, why do we solve them, period, and then especially why do we solve them for y equals 0? We do that in order to find the roots. Um, the roots are also the x-intercepts. So on a graph, a quadratic equation, instead of just being like a straight line like you're used to, a quadratic equation kind of looks like this. Um, and so when we find the roots or the x-intercepts, we're really finding these 2 points. And those have a lot of importance. You'll learn a lot about those later in your math career. Um, but those are pretty important things to know what they are. So we have to have these different ways of finding them. The first way, this is the simplest, um, but so long as you do it in the right order. Um, and so the first, it says solve each equation for x when y equals 0. That is the key, because at any x-intercept, anything that's along the x-axis, you have a y-coordinate of 0. So we're going to plug in 0 for y. That's the first step. So we're going to get x squared equals 16 plus 0, which obviously is just x squared equals 16. Then this is somewhat of a new step for us when we're solving. In order to figure out what just x equals, we have to get rid of the squared. And square and square root are opposites. So when you get down to this and you need to get rid of the squared, you do square root on both sides. Because whatever you do to one, you have to do to the other. That makes these two things cancel each other out. And so you just have x equals the square root of 16. Now if you just type in square root of 16 into your calculator, it'll give you 4. But there are actually 2 square roots of 16 because you could have 4 times 4, which equals 16, or you could have negative 4 times negative 4, which equals 16. So there are actually 2 answers to this. X could equal 4, or x could equal negative 4. And if you want to check that, you can go ahead and plug in 4 right here and do 4 times 4, you'll get 16. Or negative 4, you'll get 16. And that's kind of how you can check your answer. Moving to a slightly more complicated example. Again, the first thing we're going to do is replace y with 0. Then you may be tempted at this point to go ahead and square root. Square root is usually one of the last things that you want to do. So for now, we're just going to add 81 to both sides. And we're going to save the square rooting for our next step. Because now when you square root both, you'll get just x over here, because those cancel each other off, equals square root of 81. And the square root of 81, again, there's a positive answer and there's a negative answer. Now, if you want to go back and check these, we won't require that you know how to do the check, but if you like doing that, if you like knowing that you're for sure right, it's not a very hard thing to check. So you just go back and instead of x squared, I'm going to put 9 squared minus 81, and I want that to equal 0. Well, 9 times 9 is 81, minus 81 does in fact equal 0, so it works. Do the same with negative 9. Negative 9 times negative 9 minus 81. That's 81 minus 81, and that does equal 0. So that works, and so does that one. So those are our two solutions. X could equal 9, or X could equal negative 9. Okay, this is, there are several steps to this. The first is the same as before, which is that you want to replace y with 0. Which you're probably getting the hang of by now. You don't need to put that. And so this is, I've got this. Don't square root yet. Save that for pretty much last. Get rid of the 1. This is where you want a square root. The reason that you don't add 2, because your instinct may have been, okay, just go ahead and add 2, and then, you get rid of that. But really what you have here is you have this whole thing squared. So these aren't separate right now, really. You can get to a point where they can be separated if you square root both sides at this point, which squared and square root cancel off, and you just get x minus 2. And then you get square root of 49 over here. Square root of 49 has two answers. So this could either be one of two things. Well, or both. So this could be x minus 2 equals positive 7, or this could be x minus 2 equals negative 7. There are two possible answers. Just like here there were two possible answers, and here there were two possible answers. Same thing here. There's a positive and there's a negative. So you split it up into these two cases. Then you can go ahead and add 2 to both sides. Here you get x equals 9. Here you get x equals negative 5. And those are your two answers. Okay. In your before class, you've kind of got one of each difficulty there, starting from easiest and moving over there to hardest. So give those a shot. If you have questions on this, even if it's just, hey, I kind of get it, but I'm definitely needing more practice, then please let me know either in an email or on the question form.